Now, Brazilians also go to the polls after a highly polarised presidential election campaign that's prompted fears of violence. Opinion polls give a clear advantage to the leftist former president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. And the right-wing incumbent, Jair Bolsonaro, has hinted he might not accept a defeat. Our correspondent, Johann Ramirez, sent us this report on the election from Rio de Janeiro.
Fernanda Cipriano wants Lula da Silva to be her president. She lost her job after getting COVID and says the financial support she gets is not enough. She's putting her hopes in Lula's promises of a left-wing government focusing on social issues.
If Lula wins the election, we will get everything back. People who live on the streets will get jobs, housing, everything they don't have now.
But people are split. And you can also find people on the streets of Rio who want more of right-wing president, Jair Bolsonaro.
Bolsonaro went through a very difficult time. It is not fair that people don't want to give him the chance to do a good job again. Brazil, like all countries in the world, is starting to grow now after the pandemic. It's starting to develop. And our government needs to show its work right now, starting again.
Brazilians have a difficult decision to make on Sunday. Although there are 9 other candidates in this election, it is all about Lula and Bolsonaro. According to recent polls, Lula is ahead by more than 15 points. And Bolsonaro has said if he doesn't win in the first round, it would be because something was wrong with the process. Some say this would put Brazil's democracy at risk.
This is the first time in Brazil we have a president who says we cannot trust the results. There is a lot of fear that Bolsonaro will not recognize the results and that he will mobilize the armed forces and the police to remain in office.
And yet, Mauricio Santoro says campaigns and voters are largely focused on more immediate concerns.
Of course, in this election the economy is the most important issue, even more important than the pandemic. Issues such as unemployment, hunger, and the social impact of all these problems for the poorest people in Brazil are at the center of the campaign.
Locals on Rio's Copacabana beach know their future will be determined by the results of these elections. Most voters will be thinking of what it will mean for day-to-day issues, but experts will be watching closely to see if Brazil's democracy might be in danger.
Well, I'm joined now by my colleague Cristiane Ramalho from DW's Portuguese for Brazil service. Cristiane, good to see you. Polls indicate that Lula may even here have a shot at an outright victory in the first round today. What do you think?
Hi, Anthony. Yes, it's true. According to the last polls from yesterday night, Lula could really win in the first turn today. He has 50% of the intention of the votes, and he has a 14% of advantage over Bolsonaro. But everything remains really undecided. We cannot predict exactly. It will depend on also how many people is going to appear to vote today.
Interesting on the turnout point. How would you describe the atmosphere in the country ahead of this vote?
Well, the atmosphere is quite polarized. The research, the polls indicated that 10%, almost 10% of the people cannot appear to vote because they are afraid of political violence. And this would be really important, especially for the voters for Lula, because they live in the most poor places in Brazil. So it's quite possible that this could be a turning point in this election. But let's wait and see.
And now to the question everyone's asking, unfortunately, if the polls are right and Bolsonaro loses, will he go peacefully? Will he accept a defeat here?
Well, he has seen many times, he has said that he's not going to accept a defeat. And also he has been campaigning against this whole electoral process, saying that this is not fair, this is not really true, and has many problems. So he's trying to discredit this process. And although he has himself, he was elected 4 years ago from exactly the same democratic process that we have in Brazil, many analysts say he is not going to have enough support to go in for a military coup. So I guess that also the campaign pro-Lula in these last days and weeks are winning a new wave of support from many segments of the society. So I guess the tendency is that he has to accept. But we cannot say that his supporters that are now going to encourage it by Bolsonaro from these hate speeches will try to get some kind of violence in the next days.
So much riding on it, so much tension in the build-up. Thanks so much for your thoughts at this moment, Cristiano Ramalho.
Thank you.